What's up, Wisconsin? Welcome back to the Inside Wisconsin Show here on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. Trevor Thomas, John Anderson, J.A. It's green and gold season. Let's go. Let's go. Just get clap.
And that literally, that just puts everything else on the shelf, right? Like we love, we're high on the Brewers, but sorry, you go on the shelf. We know that the Badgers are playing, and they got Alabama and USC on the shelf.
Yeah, for now.
We're worried about basketball season event on the shelf. Like this has, we can all that stuff we'll talk about in February.
Yeah. Well, and ironically,
epic stuff, But
the Brewers are only on the shelf for like a hot minute here because they're absolutely killing it.
We'll see what happens. But the NFL, the Packers are listen. The NFL's king, and then you put the Packers on it, and that's that's where which is okay. That's fine, right? I don't go anywhere in the world, or I'm sure the same thing. And you go, where are you from? You go, I go from Green Bay. They don't go, oh, you must be a Brewer fan. Right?
Right.
Nobody goes, oh, how's the Badger hockey team going to do? No. They say, let's go Packers. So it's okay. Like I'm into that. And it's funny because at least I don't know how you feel, and you're much closer to the actual, feeling of it. But like the optimism surrounding this season is different for some reason than the last 20 years where there's always been optimism. We have Brett Favre. He's good. They're going to win a lot of games. Aaron Rodgers, he's great. They're going to win a bunch of games. Right? There's always that kind of, but this is a different kind of fresh optimism about this kind of a whole, this is where the new era starts kind of thing. At least that's what I feel.
Young and athletic. I was going to say young and dumb and athletic, but they don't know what they don't know. You know what I mean? So like, there's a lot to say about that. They haven't been there. They haven't done that. They have no reason to worry about it. So it's exciting. I am completely on that ship.
Yeah, and it's a two-edged sword, right? It's like, because I don't think they're dumb. I think they're smart people in a smart organization. But I'm with you. What you don't know, you don't know. And sometimes that's freeing, and then sometimes that gets you in trouble, and you hope most often and not that it's young and fearless and off you go. And if there's things that you dismiss and you just move on, the good side, the good flip side of that is that, like, you know what? Right now, no baggage. There's no scar tissue. There's none of that, right? So that there's a lot to be said for that as well.
By the end of this show, we hope you are in the know. Those listening and watching, an awesome lineup today for our Packers season preview. Dan Orlovsky of ESPN fame. There's not a show that he's not on. He's on all of them. Right. Like every show there is, he's on it.
Yes, he might be doing this show between commercial breaks of NFL Live and Get Up.
Seriously, it's crazy. Chase Daniel of Mizzou fame, and 14 years in the NFL, and he played in Lambeau just in different colors.
Yep, but a smart guy. Like, you don't stick around for 14 years, and he started maybe a handful of games without knowing knowing the game. That's the thing. You want to talk about smart? That cat is smart, was behind and onboarded some really good players. Learned from good players, helped onboard young guys, and there's a reason he stayed in the league because he knows it upside. He knows it forward, backwards, upside down, and right side up.
And we wrap it up with longtime Wisconsin broadcaster Lance Allan in Milwaukee for years. You'll see he's still in Milwaukee and he knows his stuff.
Yeah, but I don't trust him as my backup quarterback. Either of these other two guys, I'd let him play. Like if I would have starting a football team tomorrow, the flag football team, or whatever I got left, even at their advanced, I'd take both those guys. Lance Allan is not hired as my quarterback in any way, shape, or form. He is. I'm here for his Wisconsin experience, his deep breadth of knowledge about the Packer franchise for having covered them so long. But I'm not here for the X's and O's for that guy.
No. Well, he knows the X's and O's. You'll hear from him and the other two. Let's jump in. Only twice a year do we jump off the Statriot bandwagon and jump on the sports bandwagon for real. Our Packers season preview today on the Inside Wisconsin Show.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Legit Pizza, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
Hey, remember to subscribe on YouTube, leave a review, smash the like button, just get with us. So we said it in the open, there's not a show he's not on. Dan Orlovsky from ESPN and some time in the NFL, too. We'll get to that. Dan, thanks for coming on, man.
Good to be with you guys, especially good to be with you before, obviously, week one and a massive game. So
I want to know, have you hit for the cycle yet? Have you done like a Sports Center, Get Up, First Take, and NFL Live. That to me is the cycle.
I feel like that's most often my days. Yeah. I mean, just today I've done 7 a.m. Sports Center, Get Up, First Take. I'm going to do 2 o'clock Sports Center. I'll do NFL Live, 6 o'clock Sports Center, ESPN Bet.
Yeah. Oh, bet. So there you go. Hit for the cycle, and
I'll do the whole day again tomorrow. Yeah.
Hey, I want to talk about the Green Bay Packers. I don't know if you know, there's a lot of optimism. People are very happy about the team. They kind of love Jordan Love. I want to know how good can Jordan Love be, and how good can the Green Bay Packers be? Is that the same question?
Yeah, in many ways. I think what makes it unique right now is how good and young the roster is, and that's a little bit different when you have a quarterback that's finally been paid. So I think going back to Jordan coming out of school, it was pretty clear the physical talent. And then it was also pretty clear that he could do some things that were really difficult to coach. Some throws that you just, more often than not, it's tough to find guys capable of doing. But then there were valleys as well. It wasn't always mountaintops, and there were mechanical flaws, and there was a lot of sloppy feet attached to it. And so you look at this guy, you go, man, if you can clean some of the bad up, you don't want to take it all away, because there's a beauty in that. And so clean some of it up and get it more consistent. Man, where could he actually go with some of the unique arm that he has talent wise? And so I think, like, how good can Jordan be? I think Jordan can be one of those guys that you win games because of. I think Jordan can get to be a guy that, hey, we got a chance just because we have that quarterback, and he can play at a, top 6, top 8 quarterback level, where you're going, hey, it's 4,000 yards and 30 plus touchdowns on a consistent basis. And so I'm married with the scheme that LaFleur has, and I would keep them together a pretty extended period of time if it was up to me. But how good can the Packers be? I think that's where the situation becomes a little unique, because once you pay a quarterback, obviously the fear is, how much can we keep? And they're so young and so deep that you sit there and go, there's a really significant window that they can become a really, really formidable football team for the next couple of years.
Well, that would be really, really, really fun.
There was a time. Let's wrap and let them go. While our optimism is at a time. It's perfect. That's great.
Yeah.
We're out. Good to see you. I caught a clip on Twitter last year, Dan, during last season, where you said it clicked. You mentioned the things in the beginning of the season. What did you see? Remind us what you saw when it clicked last year, because it changed.
Yeah. So I think the big thing was, Jordan was such a unique athlete that so often, like when he got to the top of his drop, he would play very light-footed and bounce almost. And I think the basic way for me to say it is, like, when a guy does that at this position, the number one thing when your body's bouncing like that, the number one thing that happens is your eyes are fluctuating. And so when your eyes are fluctuating, there's more margin for miss. And I think that was one of his big issues. And then his feet would be so light that there'd be no consistent grab of the ground. And again, when you don't have that, there's more variance of miss, more margin of miss. And so that was my big thing coming into last year. And it reared its ugly head, I would say, a little bit more than I wanted to at the beginning of the season. And then you started to, I would say maybe like the second half of the New Orleans game, in the big comeback is when you said, I think he had some seam shots to read. And I was like, okay, that looks cleaner. That looks more consistent. And it was really over that, maybe the course of that next couple of weeks or month, you just saw a more consistency, a more intentionality to that. And I always say, for guys like Jordan that are really uniquely talented, if you give them a base, a foundation, the talent doesn't get taken away. It just it becomes almost the greater part of the conversation on a play-to-play basis. And I would say that second half comeback against New Orleans was the first time that I maybe, if I'm getting it right, was that it's starting to look a little cleaner.
Okay, so as a guy who's played this position for a long, long time, you talk about those things, and they all look great. How long does it take to ingrain some of those things so they become natural? Because we've seen it before. Yeah, we worked on it all summer. Next time, you got a guy that's 6'7", 280, chasing down with bad intentions, and all those things out the window. How long does it take for that stuff to become part of your DNA and your nature?
Yeah, I think that's always individualized to the guy, but I say a couple years. I really do. And that's why one of the things I always say is, when young quarterbacks come into the league, it's you're asking me to develop and take the bad habits out of my game that I've built for a decade, more than likely, but also I have to play and win. And naturally, I'm going to revert back to habits that might be bad. And so I think it takes a couple years to really break guys of that, unless it was a really a big part of their game to begin with, like CJ Stroud, who came out last year. He didn't really have any real mechanical flaws. And so that's kind of one of the reasons why you saw him start so fast. So I think it takes a couple years of legitimate work, when it comes to drills, and then it comes to individual, and then you're applying it to like a 7-on-7 environment, and then you're applying it to real life and games and simulated practices. And so you're really trying to break a lot of bad habits and then start to build really good ones that can be constantly relied on, no matter the situation, and the chaos around doesn't break that. And I think that's kind of evident with the patience that they showed with Jordan.
John and I get to talk to people on this show all the time that wore green and gold and played in Lambeau Field. Rare, though, is the guest that played in Lambeau Field and didn't wear green and gold. What do you remember about being in Lambeau Field?
Man, I tell everybody, I'm not saying this because I'm on with you guys. I got people to vouch. I tell everyone, if you're into sports, you got to put Lambeau on a bucket list. And I also say, like, listen, you got to go when it's really cold, and you got to try to find a night game, just because I remember the first memory I have of the place was, I think it was my first or second year in the league, and it was a Sunday night football game. And I remember, it's dark at essentially, or getting dark the time the bus is rolling in. And it was my first time going there, and you hit that main street going down to the stadium, and the place was just lined, that street, with the big aluminum cans and people in their hunting gear, and the fires coming out. And I'm from Connecticut. Now, it wasn't this extreme, as far as passion, but I was just, like, you get nostalgia and being like, this is so cool. It's because it's different. And it's very unique to that place. And I just remember, driving down that street, and I feel like you're there on that street for like 3 miles, and it's just the same thing the whole way. And then you got off the bus and get onto the field for warm-ups, and I will never forget. I will never forget when Favre ran out for the first time warm-up wise. I'll go to my grave, and that place went nuts, and I was like, wow. Like it's Favre, it's Lambeau, it's night, and it's freezing. Like that is a childhood dream. So that's one of my first ones. Played a bunch of games there. I remember the 0-16 season, and that was our last game of the year. And I think we cut it to like a 3-point game with like 4 minutes to go or something. And I was like, we are going to go into Lambeau, and we are going to go 1-15. And I think I threw a touchdown maybe to Calvin late. And Aaron came back like the very next play and threw like an 82-yarder to Greg Jennings or something. I was like, oh, that's great. So, yeah.
I was there for that. By the way, you should have heard Lambeau when Brett Favre ran out in purple. You thought it was loud then.
Oh, I couldn't imagine. Couldn't imagine.
Stupid.
Special place.
By the way, I want you to remember you tell me about Calvin Johnson. Like, if you can't complete a pass to him, you can't complete a pass
hang it up.
to anybody, anywhere.
Hang it up. Yeah.
And he was that good. So long as we're on the subject, I want to do this, and we'll get more into the Packers. But the Lions are now that's the team, right? They made the NFC Championship game, and looked like maybe they were going to win that thing. They won that division. What can you speak to in that organization, or is this just all from the wellspring of Dan Campbell? Because that is a different organization. I've said it on this show 100 times. Every time I have to go, the Lions are good, I kind of chuckle. But like, it's amazing the transformation, and they're built like last year wasn't just a thing. Like, I fear them this year.
Totally. I think the biggest thing is they've really started to draft well. Everyone would always ask me when I was there, Jay, like, why do you guys suck? And I'd be like, look at our last 10 first-round picks. None of them like panned out. None of them were good. You'd hit on one or something. And so if you look at their last couple of years of first-round picks, you're sitting there going, okay, they finally have started to hit on players like a Taylor Decker and a Penei Sewell and Hutch. And so you got those core guys. And that's, shoot, I remember it was Clay Matthews and it was Balaga. And you're sitting there going, oh, they're freaking first-round picks. They're awesome players. So, So I think really Brad Holmes has done a great job with that. I think that they took advantage of, the situation at quarterback when Matthew was like, I kind of want to get out and you guys are in rebuild mode. And, not only the trade and the picks that you get out of it, but Jared's become a really, really big time pro. And so the front office has done the opposite of what it was for many years. Like they've found really good players and taken them and then developed them and kept them together. And they've paired the perfect coach with them and kind of the mentality. And so, yeah, they are built for the long haul for sure.
So now we go back to the Packers and we talk about Jordan Love. And the questions I always have after that is, okay, so you got a great quarterback. Can you protect him? Do you have somebody that can help him run? Can they protect him?
Oh, absolutely. I think one, because there's two parts to that. One, because I think, that organization has a pretty significant track record over the course of years and decades of like the identification of that guy's an offensive lineman that fits what we kind of want to do and in our mold, and we can develop them. And so I think that like the core of that offensive line, what they look for and kind of what they try to play style wise is very much so ingrained into the organization, and they have the group. I think the second thing is, the system that LaFleur runs that he really learned from like Gary Kubiak and Kyle Shanahan, a little bit of Sean McVay. That system is always built on or always predicated on, having an offensive line that is never going to be exposed. And I'll go back to last year and thinking, one of the trigger moments in part in answering that initial question that they really started to commit protecting Jordan. Maybe it was an extra body here, maybe that was that help on that play action with that backside tight end. It's just the foundation of that scheme that every play starts with that. And having been around Matt, I think that's one of his core principles is, all right, we love this play and great against these coverages. All right, how do we get this play operated versus this defense today? Like this defense, this defensive line, and I think both of those things being really a big part of that team might make my answer an easy yes.
Mm-hmm.
John and I are going to do a top 5 list here in a few minutes, and then we'll let you go, obviously. But I'm curious to know your thoughts. Do you have this is not my question. I was just thinking about this. Do you have a personal manager that tells you where to be when? How do you keep all this crap straight?
Yeah, no, ADD and ADHD and maybe OCD. No, so truthfully, I'm old school, like I said. So I have like a planner that I write things down in, and I write down everything. So to the hour and notes and where I got to be, and it's color coordinated because I'm a weirdo. So like anything that has to do with ESPN is red because that's a calling card of ESPN. My kids' football is in blue. So, no, I think it's discipline probably from football. And I don't know, I take a tremendous pride and I'm very grateful to do what I get to do. So
you're damn good at it. So here's my question. Outside of Jordan Love, who is the most important player on the Packers this season?
That's a great question. I'll give you a guy on each side of the ball. I would tell you that on the offensive side, I would say Musgrave. Maybe it's a little bit. I think teams that have really versatile tight ends become almost incredibly, and I don't want to say impossible to defend, but it just puts you in such a bind. And if he can really take that next step, because there were moments last year that he really shined. If he takes that next step, I go back to these offenses that LaFleur runs, and I think of Owen Daniels with the Houston Texans, and I think of, George Kittle with the San Francisco 49ers and Tyler Higbee with the Los Angeles Rams. Like when you get that tight end to elevate into that conversation, it's just really difficult to try to defend personnel and scheme wise. So I would say that. And then defensively, they took Bullard out of Georgia, right?
When?
I don't think so.
No.
Who's the safety that they drafted?
Anderson quickly looks at his they did take Bullard. Yeah, second round. Round. Yeah.
So I think that safeties nowadays in the league are so paramount with like a diverse game. because of the rules of the league, because of the amount of talent that most offenses have. Like if you think in the division and you think of Minnesota, you got 3 premier pass catchers at a minimum. You think of Chicago, you got 3 premier pass catchers at a minimum. You think of Detroit, you have 2 and a dynamic back. And if Jameson, so you just got to have safeties that are so diverse. You got to be able to cover in man. You got to be able to cover in zone. You got to be able to drop down and fit in the run. You got to be able to tackle out in space. And I think if he plays at a really high level, that really kind of completes a big part of their defense.
I watch him, and they paid the money to Xavier McKinney.
Yeah, McKinney's a big time player, man.
Yeah. The thing, it's funny when I hear you talk about the tight end, because the Packers, when they were really good, right? Whether they had Chewy, whether they had when they
Michael,
Keith Jackson, he was amazing. Or you looked at different teams, right? And I always struggled, like, how did Mike Martz decide he never needed a tight end? And he took Greg Wilson, he gave him away for a song when you're like, and he was only going to be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Why is it some people feel like the tight end is an unnecessary position?
Or
you just don't have time for those people, and you're like,
I don't know. I think that there's always philosophies of I want a bigger or a more dynamic athlete out in space or whatnot, or if I have this tight end and he's one dimensional, just give me an extra offensive lineman or give me another slot receiver. So when you have a guy like a Greg that's really good at everything, you make sure that they're the focal point. I don't know why some teams sit there and think that position is such a small, in less impactful position. If you asked me, give me, 2 really good tight ends or 1 great receiver, I'd say give me 2 really good tight ends, because I think you can just do more top to bottom offensively with them.
What do you think of the Packers head coach? Because he's won a bunch of games.
Yeah.
Early on, we thought, maybe that was the Aaron Rodgers puffed him up. Nope, he seems to have turned there. But we also, I need a big playoff win outside of Dallas. The seasons have always kind of, at home, there were some tough losses. And so I think he's really good, but I've never played for any head coach. You played for a bunch of them.
Yeah, I think he's really good. In the same vein, I think that when I was with Matt, he was still cutting his teeth and starting to really learn. And when they hired him in Green Bay, I remember being on Get Up and being like, this is going to be fantastic, because Matt, in a really unique way, like he's really good at communication, but he's not a pushover. He's not a yes man. And I think that kind of conviction that he tries to lead with is really important. I think he's a big-time head coach. I think that when you've seen this offense grow, kind of what it was a little bit early with Aaron, and now kind of where it lives with Jordan, the way that you can understand how you want to play football, depending on what you have. But listen, it's really hard to move on from good friends in that profession. That's kind of one of the reasons why. It's called the Good Old Boys Club. And for him to, at that, finally sit there and move on from Joe, and we've all been around Joe for a long time and really good football coach. I do think, he realized, I love you. You're really good. It's just, we need something different and more. And that shows me he's got a good pulse for kind of what's really necessary for them to take the next step.
This is the last question I have for you, but I want to know, because we've kind of raved about Jordan Love and the second half he had, and the playoff performances, and how he's as he goes the team it could go. What was your reaction? You're watching the playoffs, and he throws that interception against the 49ers. Yeah. Like, were you just like that? Like, did you take over the job 2 minutes ago? Like, you've had, but like when you see that, what's your first reaction as a quarterback?
I can't believe you did that, and I totally understand that you did that.
What's you understand? Because I still don't understand.
Help me.
Because those, like, again, when there's guys that are they're just really talented, and I learned this from watching and being around, Matthew, and I've watched it with Patrick and Josh. They can make so many throws that so many other guys can't. Mm-hmm. And I call it putting the ball in the harm's way. And more often than not, they're so good that they get away with it, or that they live off of it. Patrick's made a bunch of throws that he shouldn't. he's just so good that he can.
Right.
And I think that was one of the throws that Jordan attempted that you sit there and go, how? But that's the way that I would think, because I'm not capable of making that throw. So I would never even comprehend trying to make it.
Right.
And so you're going, no, I can't believe you did that. And then I go, but I understand it because you've probably done throws like that and made throws like that in the past and a couple moments in this year. And you sit there and go, it worked. And so it was like that reaction, instinctual athletic thing. And so I understand it. I'm not sitting here in kind of sitting. It was okay, but I understand in that moment pulling the trigger.
I think the reaction to it was based on two things. You had Aaron Rodgers, who for 15 years never threw a ball. You know, he threw some of those passes that you talked about, but never. Before that, we had Brett Favre, who threw all kinds of those, and ended like that. Like if he throws that pass and he succeeds, and he's succeeding Brett Favre, we go, oh, there it was. And you kind of go, yep, that happens. But since he succeeded Aaron, we're like, oh God, how could you not do that? Right?
Yeah, sure.
It was a victim of that. Was a very Favre-esque throw. It was not an Aaron Rodgers throw.
Yeah.
And it's been 15 years since we'd seen one of those. And then we just went, oh no.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it.
So
Dan, we appreciate you coming on. We know you're a busy cat. Thanks for helping us preview the Packers season on the Inside Wisconsin show. Don't be a stranger. Hopefully we can get you back someday.
I would love it. You guys are awesome, man. Enjoy. And I can't say go Pack go, okay? Because where I was drafted, but
it's all right.
Yeah.
You know I'm going to edit that to make it sound like you said go Pack go, right?
Yeah, good. That's spread it on the internet, man. That's just what I need.
You're a mean. Yeah, you're a beauty. Thanks so much, Danny. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Be well.
There you go.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Legit Pizza, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
Hey, remember to subscribe on YouTube, leave a review, smash the like button, just get with us. Festival Foods JA, the official grocery and tailgating headquarters of the Green Bay Packers. If you go to their website, go festfoods.com/Packers. They literally have recipe ideas. So my question to you, do you have an air fryer? Have you ever done anything in the air fryer?
No, they're all the rage. No, but I do have a microwave, so I'm sort of in the 21st century.
They have recipes for how you can make like cheese curds in an air fryer and take them to your tailgate. Man, we are almost there. It is happening so soon. You're back for the Colts game. Are you tailgating?
I imagine I'll stop somewhere. I don't know that I actually have a place, but I'll be more like my old friend Bill Pito that I worked with at Sports Center. We used to call him the pollinator because he'd just go from pod to pod where people were working and chatting with him and annoying. So I'll probably just be a pollinator. I'll just bounce from group to group, see who's in there. Cheese curd, okay, maybe. How's your chili? Venison, I'm in. Summer sausage, a little bite here. Because, I don't need a bunch, right? You need a spread. Right. You're like a person at Ole Miss. You need this whole thing. You need a smorgasbord. I don't. I just need some cheese, and here we go. I'm so much easier on game day than you are.
Period. You're just easier, period.
You're a tailgate diva.
Fella.
You need, I need 4 things from Festival Food. You need 4 aisles. That's the difference between you and I.
Valid. One of them is the Miller Lite aisle. All of that aisle. I want that whole aisle. Well, if you're tailgating, you have to stop at the official grocery and tailgating headquarters of the Green Bay Packers. Shop at Festival Foods all over the state. Pick it up before you get to Lambeau. Enjoy it while you're at Lambeau. Head inside for a Packer victory. You're not working, right? You're here to actually hang out and see a game.
I'm just going to go sit in section 104, wherever the heck I am, row 11, and sit in. Heck, you sat in my seats more than I do. You know where it is. I don't know. I'll be there. I'll be sitting
103.
Watching. Is it 103?
Row 11, 17, 18, 19, 20.
Okay, so that's where I'll be. Before that, I'll stop by and visit the folks from Good Karma and ESPN Wisconsin at their mansion that they've put up. Just to have a cocktail, maybe do a segment on the pregame show, but mostly go see folks, make fun, listen to Wildy and those kind of guys. But for the most part, no, I'll be a tailgating free agent. Just be wandering about.
It'll be fun. All right, Fest Foods, go get it. Tailgate for the Packers. Time for another top 5 list on the Inside Wisconsin show presented by the University of Wisconsin-Platteville, a top university in the Midwest. UW-Platteville ranks in the top 50 for best undergraduate engineering programs in the country and offers top-rated STEM programs in healthcare, biology, and more. Learn more at uwplatt.edu. It's kind of cool.
Can I plug Platteville real quick?
Of course you can.
So when I go to the Olympics, and the first event I have to cover is the race walking. Okay.
Yeah.
And we are not a race walking nation. There's very few people that have it. It's only on the NAI division level. It's not very much. There's about 3 guys that coach it. There's not many of them. But the guy who's the premier kind of coach and historian and knows a bunch about it, Michael Roll, and his wife, who is a multiple-time Olympian and champion, he's a Platteville guy.
Huh.
And he is so the whole time during the Olympic walks, we're on a WhatsApp with him and just checking and needing stuff. And he's like my researcher, the whole thing. Yeah, it was amazing. It was fantastic. So big ups to Platteville.
What are the rules on that? You have to have 1 foot on the ground at all times. Is that right?
Yeah, there's really only 2. One is you have to have a foot on the ground. You can't leave the ground, unlike running.
Okay.
Like you run a whole marathon for 2 hours and 10 minutes and you're on the ground for maybe 8 minutes of it, which is crazy.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
It's kind of like a golf round takes how long? 4 hours. And you actually are playing golf for 38 seconds.
Right.
So it's similar to that. And then you have to lock your knee. That's the other thing. Your knee has to lock out so that you come over the top of it, right? Your legs never unbend when you run. So you have to, your knee locks up.
I would just love to be able to walk right now.
Well, but you'd hurt yourself doing that too. So
yeah, well, all right. Top 5 list time.
Yes.
It's the Packers preview episode. Let's preview who we think the most important players are on the team, this year's roster, the top 5. And so I love the challenge of me sharing my list with you and then seeing how it stacks up in regards to who you think is most important.
Yeah, I'm looking right now to make sure I have all of my ducks in a row here when it comes to what we're doing. So we're going to make sure. So
okay.
All right. So we're going to start back. And the caveat with this is, right, Jordan Love's the most important player on the team.
Yeah.
Hands down. We could, if we're doing the Family Feud and we surveyed 100 people, whether they were women, male, divorcees, whoever it is, they would all say Jordan Love, right?
Yeah.
So we know that's it. So where we're going is the top 5 players after Jordan Love.
Correct.
Okay. So we're not trying to be, crazed. All right.
Fair.
We just want to make sure we get out there so people go, what do you mean? Where you didn't listen? Jordan Love.
Yeah.
That's like, we're just.
No kidding.
Here are the players after Tiger Woods, or here are the players after Jack Nicklaus. So, all right. What do you got at number 5?
I have Braden Narveson.
Okay.
So for obvious reasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's my number 5 because at some point we're going to have to get a guy that's currently delivering pizzas to kick footballs for the Green Bay Packers.
Right.
They found this guy last minute. Neither of the fellers that were in camp made the roster.
Get out.
I can't forget how you literally, what do you want to call it? Magic 8-balled last year, where you're like, that kicker is going to cost us a game.
Yeah.
And he did.
Just cost us the wrong one. Yeah. And he did. Yeah. So, and the biggest part was like, he had the job. And I think when he missed the last one, right, the 32-yard, whatever it was, honestly, and I don't think what ticked them off is like, oh, he missed a field goal, is they looked at it like, that's an extra point. Like, he just missed an extra point. And if we do this well, we can't have him kick 92% on extra points. I know it's farther away. It's not what it used to be. But anyway, just so you know, that guy is number 4 on my list.
All right. I feel pretty good about that.
And I have his name scribbled, but what I actually have there is just the kicker. Okay, because I'm like you. I don't know if it's going to be that guy or not. So I have a kicker who currently filled by Braden Narveson that is who is currently occupying a spot 4, but it could be someone else in 3 weeks, but just the kicker.
The kicker.
And, yeah. Sure. And by the way, he has no slack. None of them do. They don't get any leash. Sorry. This is your job. I need you to be good. And every other team seems to be able to find him. And the Packers did for years, right? Listen, before that we had, what was it, Longwell? And before that we had the guy who UTEP and his brother kicked at Missouri, Jackie, right? Like they had a really nice run there. So that's good. It's just, by the way, that they had Greg Joseph wearing number 2. I'm like, forget you. No, you don't get to wear that number. You have not earned that number. I don't know what it is, right? I was mad at Carlson that he had 17 because he shouldn't have had Devontae Adams' number. That's gross. And this guy didn't deserve to be number 2 either. So now we got a guy who's wearing 44, which is great. You're Donnie Anderson.
Mason was in town for the Hall of Fame banquet the other day, and I wondered how that went. Does anybody walk up to him and be like, how's your leg doing? No?
Yeah. Well, listen, there's some economics and they know how it is. But anyway, so I have that guy. So I have that guy at 4.
I like it. All right. I feel pretty good about
Who do you have at 4? Well, wait, no,
no,
you need my 5. My 5 is just pick a guy in the offensive line.
It's fair.
Right? Like, I don't know if the most important guy is going to be Walker at left tackle. I don't know if it's going to be Morgan, the rookie, but somebody there has to be really good. I don't know who it is. I just need somebody, like, isn't Josh Myers, like, he's kind of new to the role. So I need somebody there. I don't know which guy it is, but somebody on the offensive line, not all of them. I think they'll play together. So 5 is just, I need somebody on the offensive line to sort of be the anchor.
Valid.
I need an anchor offensive lineman, whoever that guy is.
You'll see mine. All right, number 4.
Yeah.
I have a tie. Jair and Xavier McKinney.
Okay.
They used to avoid Jair Alexander because he was the best on the field. Yeah. Xavier McKinney, pretty good. So now who are they going to avoid? So my I guess most important one is the one they don't avoid. We got to make plays in the backfield.
So it's not those two. So then it's like Stokes or the other safety then is the most important guy.
One of those two is going to have to make plays, though. Like, they're some of the highest paid backfield in the entire league, and we want them to produce plays. So they're going to ignore one of them for real. They're going to steer clear, like wherever they think McKinney's going to be in the safety spot, they're going to throw the other way, and hopefully that's towards Jair. But yeah,
okay. I'm not going to contradict you right there yet.
And your number 4 was the kicker, so we got that.
Just kicker.
Kicker. Period.
If you don't say their name, you can't fall in love with them. Can't get attached. Just a kicker. Just a kicker.
It's valid. Number 3 for me, you already mentioned it. I put down the left tackle, Rasheed Walker. Okay. Protect the blind side.
Got to have somebody got to let the guy play. If he's got somebody draped on you can't play.
Who's your 3?
3, I have Rashawn Gary. He needs to be a superstar, right? Like, you want to protect the quarterback at 3, I want to ruin him at 3. Right? That's what I want. I want that guy to step up, and I want the flashes that we see. I want that to be all the time. I want him to be what we see of him at his best all the time.
Was he hurt 2 years ago, and last year was his first year back? Is that right?
Yeah, he had the knee or whatever it was, I think, right? Wasn't it an ACL? So I want him to come back. I want him to be a superstar. I get now it's a 4-3. It's a little different defense, but he's a rush end. Put your hand in there. And I just think he needs to get to the quarterback a dozen or 15 times. And he's shown that, like, he's got moments where he can do that. I need him to be the best player on defense. That would be
really, really fun.
Yeah, that's what I want.
Number 2 for me, Jaden Reed. Here's why I put this down. I think we're deeper at wide receiver this year than we've been in a lot of years. There's a lot of people that can make some significant plays. However, if Christian Watson isn't the Christian Watson that everybody believes Christian Watson can be, I think Jaden Reed is next. I really do.
Well, yeah. What is Christian Watson? What can he be? I don't know. I have no idea right now what he is or what he can be. So really? I just think there's enough guys that they survived without Watkins last year, and Reed's fine. Although I can't wait to see 14 jet sweeps again every game when he comes through. Yeah. So I guess I don't have him. I don't have any of the wide receivers listed because I think there's enough of them that not any one of them is that. So my number 2, though, on the other is sort of along that thing, is Josh Jacobs. He's got to be outside of Jordan, the best player on the field. That offense ran so well when Aaron Jones was in there, right? Like, there was a noticeable difference when that guy was in there than everything else. He ran great. When he was injured, it was different, just a different looking thing. When he comes back and rips off these 100-yard games at the end of the year, and now they just are smoking people, it just showed how valuable he was. So you let that walk. So you better be able to have somebody in there, because right now, even if we liked A.J. Dillon, hope is next, fine. Even if we like all these guys, none of them came in and made the offense run like it did with that guy. So now Jacobs has got to go in there, and he's got to be that guy. And, oh, by the way, given the current depth chart with everybody hurt, don't get hurt and be that guy.
Is he going to go out for passes, you think? Because that was one thing that we had in Aaron Jones at the end was he was last year's Packer preview episode, they said he was going to be one of our best receivers.
Yeah, I think he needs to be. I don't know that he can be quite that good. And I don't know, they're not quite as screen heavy as they used to be under Holmgren when they were the best screen team, almost ever, which now Andy Reid has taken that title, I think. But I just think he's got to come in. And you said goodbye to a guy that everybody wanted, appeared to still have some tread on the tire, and you paid this guy, even though it's a friendly contract, you paid him more. I just think, and oh, by the way, nothing helps a quarterback more. I don't care who your wide receivers are, having somebody turn around and get you 4.5, 5 yards to carry. So he's got to be that guy. So I think he's the second most valuable, the second most important guy on the team behind. Well, I guess Jordan Love, so he's third. He's second on my list, but that makes him third.
So my number one, knowing it can't be Jordan Love because it was everybody but Jordan Love, we might be a little bit on the same page here, and this might be a stretch, so I'm going to watch your reaction. Luke Van Ness. If Rashawn Gary has the year that we think Rashawn Gary can, he's going to have about 4 or 5 games until he's completely shut down. And if Luke Van Ness steps up, it will be something that we haven't seen in the linebacker corridor of our defense in a lot of years. When's the last time that we had 2 really dangerous inside-outside linebacker combos?
Well, the Smith brothers were good for that season.
Preston was a defensive end, wasn't he?
Yeah, but isn't that where Gary's playing right now?
Is it so? 3-4, 4-3. Fair.
Yeah, so he's down.
Yeah, they were pretty good
lineman.
Who was on the other side of Clay Matthews when we won the Super Bowl?
I don't even know.
I don't know either.
Teddy Bruschi. I just said that because I saw a Patriots thing online the other day. That's a bold choice. That's that guy. So behind Jordan Love, the guy who's got to be the best player for the Packers is Lucas Van Ness.
If Luke Van Ness has a year, we will do very, very well because that means
I totally get that. But what if he doesn't? I think the team still has a lot of ways to win.
Then my number one is Jordan Love.
If Josh Jacobs goes, like if you lose Josh Jacobs or you lose Van Ness, which one of those bothers you more?
I think my point is if we don't play solid defense.
I didn't ask for your point. I asked for the answer to my question. Which one of those bothers you more if you go, dang, we don't have Lucas Van Ness this weekend, or dang, we don't have Josh Jacobs?
Is Rashawn Gary playing out of his mind? Because I've never seen Josh Jacobs play in green and gold, so I'm going to go Luke Van Ness just to stick to my number one.
That's a very bold choice.
Thank you.
The guy who's currently listed as a backup defensive end is the most important guy behind Jordan Love.
Number 2 in the depth chart for a reason. All right, who's your number 1? Get me out of this.
Number 2 on the depth chart is for a reason because that means he's not starting. But that's cool. I'm glad that the most important guy behind Jordan Love is not even a starter. I
cannot wait to mark this right here. You watch. Luke Van Ness is going to be huge for the Packers this year.
Listen, huge. I guess he can. I'm not saying he can't be huge. I'm not saying he can't be great. I hope he is. Just don't know that he, after Jordan Love, is the most important player on that team.
Will this be the first time I got the number 1 thing wrong in the top 5 list? It's been some time.
Yeah,
maybe 90-ish episodes.
The kicker in the right spot, close there. So,
who's your number 1?
I went back to where you were. I think the number 1 is Xavier McKinney. Okay. I think he's the single most important guy. I need Rashawn Gary to be the best player on the defense, but I think given the money they paid him, right, which is out of character,
right?
What Hafley wants out of his defense, like I think that guy's the linchpin and runs it all, and so I think he's got to be there and he's got to be great, and he's the most important guy. Like it doesn't, if it's 6 interceptions, great. If it's stuffing the run and tackles, great. If it is forcing fumbles, if it's blitzing, whatever it is, I just think he's the guy that they specifically went and got with all this in mind. Hafley's got it. It's a guy he wants, and for the money he's making, I think he's after Jordan Love, he's the most important person. And I purposely went for a defensive guy, thinking that Love's there. That's why I dropped Jacobs down behind him. I think McKinney. He's getting star money, and they need him to be the star player at a star position in this defense for Hafley.
Do you think Hafley's the most important person on the sidelines for the Packers?
No, because as bad as the other people that they've had is eventually the players got to play, right? So no, I always think players are way more important than any coach. Like the difference between winning and losing a lot of times, most as often is certainly coaching. But no, players still have to be.
No, outside of the players. Sorry, I meant like coaches, like LaFleur and special teams and offensive coordinator. All that's important, but the defense is the one significant area.
Yeah. Right now, he's the most significant guy outside of LaFleur. Yeah. Because he runs the operation, calls the play. So outside of that, I think we can agree on that.
He's on TV. He hosts some podcasts. He spent 14 years in the NFL. None of that matters to John Anderson. That's Chase Daniel from Missouri. What's up? Good to see you.
What's going on, man? Yeah. Thanks for having me on. As soon as John called, I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
Provided health, kids, and doctors and everything else doesn't get away. It's
exactly
life comes at you fast when you're not just in the film room.
I tell you what, man, life has been crazy, and we were talking, before the show. It's like I'm more busy now that I'm retired, and it's just nonstop. I got this Tar Heels jersey on. I'm not necessarily a UNC fan, although I am a Jordan fan. I am coaching my kids' flag football team today. Literally, I'm leaving this podcast and I'm going straight to pick up my kids from school. And it's just great being a dad, but it's very busy, as you can tell.
Good. Do you, by the way, because we want to get into this first, but do you run sophisticated stuff with the kids yet? Or are you still?
Oh, John,
we got we got mesh points and read options and multiple.
John, do you know me? We got double reverses. We got a double reverse pat. Like, if I'm in it to win it, bro. Like we are so it goes by division. So they get the first, second grade division together.
Yeah,
we're all first graders. It's 12 teams in that. We're all first graders.
Yeah,
they're 6 and 7. They barely listen. We won the championship last year, but we're going up division. I feel like we're probably going to get smoked this year because we don't throw the ball a lot because we don't really have anyone that can. These second graders are throwing the ball all over yard. You would be super impressed. It's actually Drew Brees' league that he started nationwide, F&A, Football in America. It's great. Like, my son loves it. We got a good team, man.
That's funny. And you played with Drew back in the day, so you got to go from there. Let's talk Green Bay Packers, and we start because everything for the Packers literally starts with Jordan Love. Like that's the epicenter. Everything goes from there. We've seen a season of Jordan Love. What do we need to see in his second season from Jordan Love for the Packers to be better?
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I love this question so much because we talked about it on national TV today, and I am so ready for this question. I think for me, when you break it down, John, he started 3-3 last year, and there were a lot of haters out there, really loud. Oh my gosh! And all of a sudden, now he's being paid over $200 million in total for what he's done. He's the highest paid quarterback in league history. And it's really those last 10 games or so that really stood out to me. Really, Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love both got on the same page as a quarterback and a play caller in Matt LaFleur. And I know the thing that stood out to me the most was that this is Matt LaFleur's offense. Like when Aaron Rodgers was there, Aaron Rodgers had his say on what it was. And with all these young guys, right, the receivers, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, they are amazing. And on film, it's something else because they are so on the same page. Specifically, I was rewatching, and we did a segment today. I was rewatching the Dallas Cowboys game in the wild card round. Yes, that's exactly what it was called. Because I went back and I was trying to prepare. And I noticed some things the second go-around that I didn't notice the first go-around. And mainly it was how he was operating at the line of scrimmage. Mm-hmm. He took on the role of full-on like operator, conductor, the guy that runs the ship. And it was so impressive. There was a play early in the game. It was a big completion. It was like a deep in route where he gets up there as the Cowboys defense is checking plays. They check out to cover 2. He buys some time, hits a completion, long completion. Okay. So they went to the sideline. Dallas said, oh my gosh, they got our empty check. Like, let's fake the signal next time. And we're going to completely zonk out Jordan Love, and we're gonna fake him out, and he's not gonna know what happens in the red zone. If you guys remember that cover zero fade back post touchdown to really seal the deal, they were an empty. It was the same play. The Cowboys checked the same thing they did to cover two. Jordan Love didn't bat an eye. He brought the tight end down. He protected. He drifted back in cover zero and threw a dime. That's when I knew. I was like, this guy has arrived. So I'm really excited about what he brings to the table for the Packers. We actually, John, we went out to the joint practices and had a sit-down interview with Jordan Love a couple weeks ago. And he said the number one thing that he's working on the most is his mental, his brain, his skills at the line of scrimmage, understanding when to get in and out of place. He has full control of that Matt LaFleur offense, and that's good news for Packers fans.
I was literally going to ask that question. I know you sat down with him. Outside of what he does on the field, how are his mentals? So I mean, like you played for 14 years, right?
Yeah.
What is it about Jordan that in conversation and the mental side makes him this good?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it matters. He's a normal guy. Like he doesn't view himself as like holier than thou, like this guy who is above the team. And that's, I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers was that all the time, but at times there were, he likes to hear himself talk. And it's a completely different mindset with Jordan Love. He's one of the guys, he's younger. He really hit on when I sit down with him and I asked him this, I said, what was it like to learn and sit behind Aaron Rodgers? And he was actually saying how much he really liked it and how when he first came into the league, he thought he could play like just mentally, but then he saw Aaron Rodgers go to work. And he said, oh man, okay, I have a lot of work to do. And so he really did that. Funny thing about the interview was I asked him in person, I said, hey, tell me about this jump pass, man. You look identical on film to Aaron Rodgers. He's like, dude, it's unbelievable. He looks like Favre. Rodgers looks like Favre. It's just like being taught. And I'm like, where'd you get this jump throw? He's like, I've never done that in my entire life. And it just came to me in practice and I just do it now. I thought that was fascinating for a quarterback at this level to really never do that. And it's just what you think of Jordan Love when you think of him throwing the football.
So you like Jordan Love. You kind of like the receiver group he's got there. I think that Josh Jacobs is a huge, important part here because of how well the offense ran under Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
Like it was noticeably different there. What does he have to be for the team to be good?
Well, he has to be better than his last year in Las Vegas. And I think that, you guys know Shady McCoy, right? One of the Eagles' best rusher in history. We're on a show with him every day, the facility, FS1. And it was so funny. We ranked running backs today. He ranked them. He said, hey, give me Shady, give me your top 5 list. And we went through this whole thing. Number 2 in the entire NFL for Shady McCoy, Josh Jacobs. Loves who he is. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can run it between the tackles. He's a 3-down back. I think that's great and all. But at the end of the day, this LaFleur offense, which relies so much on motions and shifts and sort of disguising, eventually they're just going to line up in 2x2 set in a double right formation and just say, hey, Josh Jacobs, go get that first down. Like take a little bit of pressure off of Jordan Love. And I think that's the exciting thing about this offense and the exciting thing about the season, really, because I can give you all the insight onto what I think it's going to be. But until Friday in Brazil, we have no idea. So I'm really excited about week 1.
You played at Lambeau, Chase, when you were with the Lions and obviously the Bears. What is it about the Packers at Lambeau Field that gives them that edge, and knowing full well that the Lions have kind of spoiled that the last few seasons?
Yeah, they really have. I'll tell you what, Lambeau Field to me is one of the greatest places on earth. Like it's hard to go into that. And I think it's the history to answer your question, but you go into that place and you just look up and you look around and you think of all the greats who have played there and you go through that locker room. And you get chills, man. Like very rarely do I go into, I played in all 32 stadiums. I think I played in like 40 stadiums actually, because I played in some stadiums like multiple times, like Minnesota Stadium. I played in 3 separate times because it was the Metrodome. It was Minnesota. It's the New Dome. It's easily one of my favorite places to go. And it's always a chill in the air, even in September. Man, we started the season there. I think it was 2018, the Khalil Mack game, or his first game back. strip sack, fumble. Aaron Rodgers goes out. I'm like, oh, we're winning this thing. Not so fast. Aaron Rodgers comes back, and then the crowd gets into it, and Mitch Trubisky can't hear on certain plays. It's just such a unique home field advantage. But also, like I like to say, Packers fans are like Nebraska fans, and why do I say that? Nebraska Cornhusker fans. Nebraska Cornhusker fans are like the nicest human beings on planet Earth, and they are the smartest fans. They know when to be loud. They know not to, when. That's the Packers. And this "Go Pack Go" gets so freaking annoying when you're on the visitor bench. You just can't help but be like, "Shut up!" And they just keep doing it. They keep doing it, man.
By the way, what was the score the last time you went to Nebraska? What'd you win in Lincoln?
Oh, it was like 52-14. We smoked them.
Put a knot on their head. It was crazy.
Them.
You also played there with the Saints. I was at the game when you played there at the Saints when you guys.
Yes, I think it was the opening game.
Yeah, you thought you lost that one. What do you think of kickers?
I mean, run laps, special teams, right? Water boy.
Okay, that's ready to go. Given the other side, how good does the Packer defense need to be if they're going to be? Oh, because I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, right? Yes, I got that they won a playoff game last year, but they were 9-8. They didn't win the division. There's room to improve, right? They've got a long way to go. What does the defense have to do for that team to be a team that is somebody's going to have to reckon with?
Yeah, I think last year you look at it. I think the defense the first 6 weeks when they started 3-3 wasn't their high point, but they played better than their offense, and then their offense took over and went on a roll, and they were able to finish 9-8 or whatever. I think changing defensive coordinators was the smart move, even though, might not be the popular move. It was a tough decision for Matt LaFleur. I think it's a brand new scheme. I think they got to be more aggressive, John, on defense, meaning they gotta find ways other than Rashawn Gary putting his hand in the dirt and just rushing the passer. They got to find ways to create pressure and to create havoc in the quarterback's mind. I thought last year at times they were, how do you say, like one-dimensional. There was a couple coverages they were running. It wasn't super hard for offenses to recognize, specifically quarterbacks to recognize and to attack that defense. I think that's the number one thing they have to do is they got to move around. They got to have a fastball, a changeup, a curveball, a slider, a sinker, a knuckle. Like they got to keep offenses on their heels, specifically just especially the way offenses are playing right now. Like there's so many different ways for an offense to beat you. If I'm on defense, I want to blitz. I want to pressure. I want to mix up looks. I want to create havoc on the offensive line. I think that's where it starts up front with those big guys, Preston Smith, Kenny Clark, Rashawn. It's a good D line. Can they hold up long enough in the backfield for those guys to get there?
Are we still in the honeymoon phase? You mentioned it earlier, 3-3 to start the season last year. Had a great second half. Jordan looks really good. The Packers are good. And now we have this major expectation of them. Should that be the case, or is this just going to be a young team that's going to take a minute?
No, I think it was a young team to take a minute last year. That's why it was. These guys were so young. Now they're seasoned. And talking to Jordan when we sat down and I asked him specifically, you guys are young. He's like, yeah, we like it that way because we can mold this team how we want. We got some guys that are vets, that are leaders, but Jordan's had to really take a step up in his leadership vocally. He's always been a lead by example type guy, but vocally for him, he enjoyed that role, and he's getting a say in how the team looks and feels. As you guys know, quarterback play is the most important play really in all of sports. So as the quarterback goes, the Green Bay Packers will go, and that's with Jordan Love.
So this is the last thing I have for you, because I know we got a more important game to cover with your son. But since you played in Chicago and you played in Detroit, by the way, as a Packer fan, the idea that the Lions are the team to beat is still kind of foreign to me with that organization. But as you look at that division, the Vikings, sorry that JJ got hurt. I feel that's terrible for that guy. But people are very high on the Bears, and obviously the Lions are the team to beat because they've won the division. How do you size that thing up? And I can't believe, by the way, our boy Eberflus is running an NFL franchise.
I know. Eber was my defensive coordinator, and helped recruit me. We were talking about this in the show today as well. So I'm glad you just teed me right up with another one I was prepared for. Other than the NFC West, I think it's probably one of the best divisions in the NFC and really top to bottom, because the Vikings are a little bit of a wild card. It really depends on how Sam Darnold plays. I think the Bears, I know you don't want to hear, I think the Bears are going to be good. And it really hinges on Caleb Williams' development. That defense finished first in the league the last 8 games of the year, only giving up 17 points. They ranked first in the league the last 8 games with 16 interceptions. The Ebers got them rolling on defense. Montez Sweat is a beast. It is all going to come down. They've surrounded Caleb Williams. How is he going to play? The Lions, I agree with you. Like, I was with them in 2020. Matt Patricia got fired midway through the year. Now they're the talk of the town, rightfully so. Dan Campbell, I was with them in New Orleans. Like, it makes a lot of sense. I love this division. I think it's a really, really competitive one.
Mm-hmm.
Chase, as we wrap it up, give us the rundown of where we can hear you speaking into a microphone. You have a much bigger job than when you played in the NFL.
Yeah, look, the big thing is that we are enjoying live TV every single day, national television. The show's called The Facility. Why is it called The Facility? Because in the locker room, that's what we call going into the facility. That's where we go to work every single day. There's 4 NFL athletes. You're never going to find anything like it on live TV, where all 4 guys played in the league. It's hard for someone to host a show, John, as you know. Emmanuel Acho is great at that. It's me, James Jones, and Shady. We're getting away from this hot take culture. We're just trying to teach ball. Less debate, more discussion, more ball breakdown, stuff like that. And then I got a podcast, which I'm really excited about, called Scoop City with Diana Rossini and The Athletic. It's awesome. We've had on some major guests: Andy Reid, Sean Payton, Jordan Love. We have Josh Allan joining the show on Friday. It's dropping on Friday. We're super pumped about that. And then if you're on digital, my YouTube channel, that's where I break down quarterbacks on a weekly basis, multiples from an all 22 perspective. So really those 3 things, as you alluded to, I'm more busy now than I was when I was playing.
Well, when you have more jobs than kids, then that's when you have to stop. You're close right now.
I'm very close. That's good advice coming from the GOAT right here.
There you go. All right, my man. Thanks so much for your time. Be well. Good to see you. Take care of yourself. We'll be watching.
Thanks, guys.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Legit Pizza, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
Hey, remember to subscribe on YouTube. Leave a review. Smash the like button. Just get with us. We talk about all-stars in the Miller Lite category on the show from time to time. Yep. Did you hear Uke's call of... was it Churio's Grand Slam the other day? Have you heard it?
I did not, and at the risk of sounding gross, that was because I was in Italy.
Okay.
I was watching Formula One racing. I was there for that, so I missed that. But because we both had jet lag, I was with my son Colin. Like in the middle of the night, I kind of get up and I got to use the restroom. But it's like 4 a.m. I'm totally wide awake now. I go back. And I'm watching. I'm like, wow, the Brewers swept a doubleheader, and one of them was 14-0. They got 10 in the ninth, and I'm like, and I look over, and he's like wide awake. So we're both up there at 4 a.m. He's watching the Kingsmen, and I'm looking at baseball scores because like we're so off kilter. So I didn't hear it, didn't see it, but I read a lot about it, and it was in English. Thank goodness.
Yes, it was. And yeah, I was going to say, do we have a satellite office in Europe that we haven't talked about? Like,
No,
do you have a place over there?
No.
It's amazing because Uke is 90 now, and Churio's 20. A 70-year difference of all things Brewer amazingness. And I wonder if Churio knows much about the Miller Lite All-Stars. And maybe that's kind of what made me think about that. Have you when's the last time you were at AmFam Field for a Brewer game with the Miller Lite in your hand?
Boy, I don't know. It would have. I was there for a game before the Wisconsin Sports Awards, so that was
years ago,
pre-pandemic. It's been a while, but I had very good seats. I think I sat in Antanasio's seats. I was in row 1 right there. Locaine came out. It was nice. I had a good seat. Except, I'll be honest, I left my old. I can still see. I left my old Brewer hat there. My old good, the blue one with the original M on it. So I've had to since replace that, but my original one is not there. It was an original looking one. I left it on the hot dog stand as I was dressing my hot dog because like you can't have a Miller Lite to wash it down unless you have something to wash it, something to eat to wash down. And so I had, as I was loading up with stadium sauce, relish, onions, and all the other manner, I left my hat.
I was going to say, it's something tells me you put it.
Story. We need to be telling more good things about Miller Lite and not my sadness of losing my hat.
You know what's cool at Lambeau now, and I think at AmFam Field, they serve Miller Lights in 24-ounce cans. Let's just do that? That sounds like a great way to go about the sports, especially at AmFam Field and Lambeau. Celebrate responsibly because you don't have to choose what's best. Miller Lite has great taste and is less filling. Tastes like Miller time. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/inside Wisconsin, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories per 12 ounces. Fewer calories and carbs than premium like beer. I feel like
Listen, I love the fact that I can at one moment I can get my CPAP machine, like I can get medical supplies to my door, and I can get Miller Lite to my door. Like all the medicinal things I need in my life can just be brought to the door.
Because, of course, on the Inside Wisconsin show, we wrap it up with longtime Wisconsin sports broadcaster Lance Allan from American Family Field. Go Brewers. This is great.
It's the biggest surprise in Major League Baseball. So I figured, you guys have wonderful backdrops. John Anderson is the real life Ron Burgundy, where he's got things of mahogany and leather bound books behind him. And Trevor, you look like you're tapping a beer or whatever you're doing there. I figured I would have the biggest surprise in Major League Baseball. Wisconsin, what's more Wisconsin than brewers, brewing, whatever? Here we are.
Listen, if Pat Murphy is not the manager of the year, they might as well, then they should never have the award again.
Right.
It's amazing. I agree with that. I said that to him to kind of get a reaction out of him or whatever, and he stayed very quiet, which was unlike him, John.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I think is undersold in all this is Matt Arnold being possibly the executive of the year, because you think about like when they gave Churio the contract for $82 million 8 years and hadn't even like played in the majors and buy out those 2 arbitration years. I think some people, and Brewers fans are very educated, but some people were like, who is this guy? Some knew that of his potential. I think that looking back on that contract and what they did is going to be a genius move going forward.
And we're going to sign 6 relievers who have already been with 3 other clubs, but I know they'll be perfect here. So there's so much that's gone right. It's such crazy. Listen, I could keep talking about them because what's crazy, right, is they're not flukish. They lead every metric going. They're not like somehow, you wouldn't look at the metrics on StatGraph or whatever, Fangraphs, and they're like, they should actually be 63 and 90. They're not. They're things. Okay. We should talk about the Packers, though. So this is the Packers preview.
I'm an invited guest. Already throwing the show off the rails.
No, it's all right. I don't know. I don't know how's the Milwaukee School of Engineering going to be? As long as you're repping like a.
Well, the thing is, you're repping the NFL draft, and that's appropriate. And Trevor, Packers. This is where a lot of my tuition money is going because my kid is. I figured it's like NASCAR. You basically, but the only problem is instead of me getting the endorsement, it's almost like a signing bonus where I have to pay them in order to get the endorsement or get the rub or say I'm a big deal in Milwaukee. So that's why I figured I'd wear that.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I'd wear Arkansas stuff, but people are like, I don't even understand why you'd send your kids that far from home and what it is. So anyway, Green Bay Packers are what? They are promising. They are overrated. They have arrived. What are the Green Bay Packers?
They're still young. I think the expectations are incredible, and I think they're legit. It is pretty amazing that the last 6 to 8 weeks of last season, John, kind of showed what they could be. They're still young, and I do think it is the situation where expectations are sky high, and rightfully so. But on the flip side, are they too high? And we'll have to wait and see. That's the old crystal ball type question and crystal ball type answer. You can tell I'm avoiding it to say, specifically what they're going to be. But I do think that, Matt LaFleur at times, and I think that one preseason game that didn't look very good, what that film session was like the next day. It was, hey, you guys are young and you're not as good as what you think you are. He had that hammer for that one.
So, that's what I'm going to follow that up with because, listen, if the Packers were coming off a 4-12 season, we'd be like, but I think this is the year. Like, I feel like maybe fans are a little far out over their ski tips. So that's my thought, but I'll let you be the bad guy and tell them that maybe that's really the case. I don't know. What do you feel about that? Like the fans, the optimism is unbridled, and I feel like we might need to bridle it.
And I think, to a degree, yes. I think to a degree there should be enthusiasm. I mean, every year the Packers, I do agree with the sentiment that the administration, even last year, when nobody wanted to use the R word, nobody wanted to say rebuilding, retooling, anything like that. And clearly they weren't to a degree. I think every year their intention is, we want to make the playoffs. We are going to put a competitive team on the field. And some years, obviously, it's better than others. That being said, you don't just roll the ball out on the Lambeau Field or whatever field you're playing on and expect to win Lombardi trophies. That just doesn't happen. And I've been in Wisconsin, as you guys well know, 32 years total career, 28, here in Milwaukee, pretty much my whole life. And I try to be realistic. I'm not a fanboy. And I do think this team has a lot of things that you have to be very optimistic about. But I also think that the team that they're playing right off the bat in Brazil has those same aspirations and has been there in the NFC. I think the Niners are still to be heard from. And I think there's the Lions that have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. So they're not just automatically going to just roll into the Super Bowl.
I'm the fanboy. That's cool with me.
Hey,
I will be the fanboy.
Roll, man. Trevor, come on.
Yeah.
Everybody's got to roll. That's good.
Can you compare this team to something we've seen in the last 30 some years, Lance, since you've been covering the Packers?
Yeah. I do think that let's say, 2009 season, and you guys probably both remember that. I was in Arizona when they had that shootout game in the wild card playoffs against the Cardinals. And it was Kurt Warner versus Aaron Rodgers, even though it's not a 1v1 type game. And it just seemed like, okay, this team is close and next year could be really special. And now I'm starting the hype train. Whoop, whoop, here we go. Because what did they do the next year? They won the Super Bowl, in Arlington. So I think they are in that ballpark. I think in 2009, they were still a relatively young team trying to find their way. And you could tell they were on the verge of something special. What that something special is this year remains to be seen. But I think they're right there in the mix with the kind of the teams that I mentioned.
But you make a point that I try to make to people all the time. And it happens because we have all this time between when the Super Bowl ends and training camp starts, all this to speculate. They're onto something special, but they win the Super Bowl and they're a wild card team. And next year they're 15-1 and we're home. Like, it's hard to win the Super Bowl. And you can't get that through to people now. Like, the things that have to go right to win a Super Bowl are incredible. And the farther you get away from it, the harder you see it is to accomplish when they go through that stuff. Give me the biggest question mark on this team.
Biggest question mark is probably, I will say, the defense. I think Jeff Hafley is a welcome addition, especially among, Packers fans that had the, of the previous coordinator and the previous defense that always seemed to kind of, sputter and things like that. But I do think that there are still some things that have to come together. I think that their offense is going to be very dynamic. I think the offensive line has a lot of continuity. I think the tight ends are going to be even more involved than they were last year, and they were pretty involved as rookies, but obviously there were some injuries there and things like that. The receiving core is super deep. So I would say just overall in general, it would be the defense and just making sure that they hold up their end of the donkey.
You say you're not a fanboy, but you grew up in Wisconsin. What is your favorite part about covering the Green Bay Packers as one of us?
When I used to sit around my high school cafeteria table, the knucklehead buddy group of mine would sit there and say, wouldn't it be unbelievable if you actually had a conversation with the head coach of the Green Bay Packers and actually somewhat knew what they were doing and what they were thinking? And John lived this role and lived this life. Sometimes you dream about things and those dreams come true. And one of my dreams that came true was I did the Mike McCarthy show. I know Matt LaFleur. I have conversations with them about not only football, but life and other things off the record and off to the side. And those are things that my high school buddies that humble me to this day still remind me about. Hey, you remember when we were 16 years old and we were having like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Well, yeah, you lived that. And that to me is just ridiculous. And then the other one that, sometimes you have dreams, goals, aspirations as a kid that grows up in Wisconsin. You don't even dream about stuff like this. The one moment like that for me is every time it comes on NFL Network, once again, I don't have a lot of bright friends. I'm not very bright. So, I run with the group that accepts me. And my buddies always text me and go, hey, you're on with Brett and you're hugging him. And, the whole welcome back to Lambeau Field where there's like 68,000 people in Lambeau Field. And millions watching on NFL Network. I'm like, I know, knuckleheads. I was there. I didn't realize
Right.
it was Mike for NFL Network and NFL Films when I hugged him and said, this is your moment, soak it in. But trust me, that's a moment that when you're put in that spot, you better not screw it up or you're going to be all over TMZ or, some reel or whatever. So you say a prayer, you say, you have a little piece of paper underneath your foot to make sure you hit your keynotes and make sure you deliver and get out of the way. And that was something that I never even dreamed of. And it's always going to be one of those things that you're like, holy smokes, I did that. It was insane.
That makes having Paul Roach, the offense coordinator under Bart Starr, as a neighbor of mine, really seem like not much of a story anymore. I was really going to expound on that. So our house, and then there was the Carricks, and then there were the Roaches, and yeah, I'll just put that away now. That was he was an offense coordinator for some really bad teams. Like that guy really got David Whitehurst to some greatness, but your story's better, so that's cool. We always want to highlight the guests and what they have.
Hey, come on, you lived the dream, man. You were on the show, man.
So that's that's it. Yeah, that's great. I watched that too. I wasn't there for any of that. I got the 70s. That's awesome. By the way, when your friends and your knucklehead friends, you were 16, right? Like who was the quarterback?
Who was the quarterback? Lynn
Yeah.
Dick. Lynn
Okay,
Dick.
so you were serviceable.
I would argue that he was even better than serviceable. Like Lynn, you look at those offenses, John, you remember it? There's
A
that
lot of picks.
Yeah, the Monday Night Football game, 83 against Washington.
You can't live off one game and a missed field goal by Mark Mosley.
No. They were their defense was not good. Yeah, okay, I give it. Their defense was not good, but they put up tons of points. JJ and Lofton and whatever, and I'm still mad to this day that my parents made me go to bed like mid-third quarter. I told them that was going to be a legendary classic Monday Night Football game. And that was back before X and social media, whatever. I wake up the next day and my buddies, once again, hey, did you see that game? That was unbelievable. No, I just saw the score. I have no idea what happened.
Yeah, see, that was good. I was in my dorm room for that one.
Dorm room.
Yeah, very excited. I was in my dorm room when
Nice.
it came through. What's the overall? You talked about the confidence. Like what's just the vibe around that team? Like right now, if you go out, if I was to get to Oneida's practice field, like what's just kind of the energy and the sense around that squad?
Trevor was there and he experienced it. I mean, every day it was about what, Trevor, 3 deep on the sidelines as far as people. I tell you what, yes, the hype train is rolling, and whether you want to jump on or whenever you want to jump on, it's going. And I'm sure that it will be the overreaction society whenever they lose a game, because I don't think they're going 17-0 or whatever. But I do think that people are legitimately excited. Like you saw the potential. Jordan Love is still a young quarterback in his development, but you saw what he can do to a defense. And you saw, dare I say, the true Matt LaFleur offense, for good or for bad. They will go to the matchup that's working. One game it might be Jaden Reed. Another game it might be Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, the tight ends. Josh Jacobs, whatever it is, Bo Melton. Who would have guessed last year that Bo Melton would be the first 100-yard receiver in a game for the Green Bay Packers? So I'm just saying, and Dontavian Wicks was incredible in that Dallas playoff game. So that being said, they're going to go to the matchup that works. They're going to find the soft part of the opposing defense, and that's what it's going to be. And Jordan Love did an excellent job of doing that and having the matchups that he felt like they could exploit down the stretch.
Goody said it the other day in his press conference that he wishes he was more patient with special teams people, i.e. kickers, punters, and so on, like Ted Thompson was. When you started covering the Packers, it was probably Chris Jackie. Have you seen something like this in all these years where we're going into the season? I feel like this is probably the second time in 3 or 4 years where we picked up a punter, right, last minute a couple years ago, and now we have a kicker that we just got off the P squad from Tennessee or something. I don't know. Has this happened?
I was going to say, Trevor, and then all of a sudden they changed kickers after that build-up.
Right.
You don't worry. And last year it was like, okay, you had lower expectations going into the season. You could make the argument that, hey, a team that's got less wiggle room, like what they had last year, that maybe you want a veteran kicker like Mason Crosby, or maybe you want a more reliable guy. But obviously going into the season last year, nobody publicly, Packers-wise, wanted to admit that it was a young team and they kind of wanted to play the let's see if or let's let guys develop game. and you're willing to live with the warts a little bit more until all of a sudden it really hurts in that 49ers playoff game where they had a shot to win. It's not all on Anders Carlson on that, but obviously that played a part. And then this year, clearly, we all know that the NFL is one of the most parity-filled leagues anywhere. And so you can't be messing around with somebody that you don't either have full confidence in or that, hey, points matter. It is every point matters, and you have to have that reliable, steady Eddie. And dare I say, they've had maybe more problems replacing Mason Crosby than they've had replacing Aaron Rodgers, which is kind of crazy to say, but it's somewhat true.
What's the higher over under? Like the kickers that go through 2-3 kickers, or they go through 2 or 3 backup quarterbacks?
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah, because that situation is still kind of fluid as well. I know that Jordan Love is young, but you make a great point, John, in the sense that, going into camp, you're kind of like, okay, last year they kind of got away with it with Sean Clifford. But this year, if you have the aspirations you better have at least somebody solid behind Jordan Love, because most quarterbacks don't play every single game. So, yeah, what is the faith behind Malik? And you traded for him. Not that you traded a lot of equity for him, but you traded a 7th-round pick for him. So you better have some faith in that. But he's still a little bit of a developmental guy, too, because he hasn't been in the league that long. So that's a great point. I'm going to still lean toward the kicker situation because I don't know, We'll have to wait and see what Narveson brings to the table. We don't know a lot about him other than just his previous stats, but I'm going to lean more toward the kicker situation, but quarterback's an interesting one.
Couple more here as we wrap it up with Lance Allan, longtime Wisconsin TV sports broadcaster. I grew up in Johnson Creek, Lance, watching you and Dan Needles on Milwaukee television, and there was a few times.
I'm just asking. It's Crick, not Creek.
Crick.
I'm still getting used to this Wisconsinese stuff. You know what I mean?
Crick. Yeah. Okay. This time of year, there was many a seasons where the Brewers were out of it, completely out of it by the time the Packers season starts. Mm-hmm. Go back now over 30 years, and we've got it pretty good all of a sudden with 2 teams that we're actually talking about are doing something pretty special.
Well, and of course the Bucks are around the corner, but that's kind of, more in the distant, rearview mirror, and the Badgers, who knows? But you're right, Trevor, in the sense that it is one of those situations where, I hate to say it, but being a longtime media member, sometimes you would almost make jokes about it of, okay, the Brewers are going to fade a little bit in September, kind of just drift off into the distance, and it makes it all the easier to head on up to John Anderson territory and cover the Packers. And that has not been the case, obviously, the last few years, and it's been a fun dilemma to try to balance both. And trust me, you hear about it. Former Commissioner Bud Selig always kind of let me know, like, hey, you're covering the Packers a lot. Make sure you're covering the Brewers as well. And trust me, I would listen to Bud and say, yes, we need to do a little better. We need to do that, whatever. But it is a fun and interesting dilemma, and especially with, one team expected to go deep in the playoffs in the Super Bowl, and the other team kind of, almost like the Packers were last year, playing with house money, and let's see how far they go.
Did you say Commissioner Selig, or I don't know that during this time he was, but did you go in all fairness, you've had Phil Gardner as your manager for 8 years. Maybe you should pay more attention to the effing Brewers and not just me. So how about you make sure? Yeah. How about you take care of your own house? Hey, here's my November home schedule. Do you want to, you get to go to one game. You want to go to the Lions at Packers, 49ers at Packers, or Dolphins at Packers?
I thought this was like the John Anderson World Tour, and I got the T-shirt when you said my schedule. What I mean?
Nope. Here's your schedule in November. Which one of those games you're going to go to?
Say it one more time. Go down the checklist.
You got Lions at Packers, 49ers at Packers, Dolphins at Packers.
That is a tremendous lineup, my friend. You know what? I know that the Niners are kind of the team that last year, the playoffs and the bitter end and all that good fun stuff. I always say, in order to be the man, you got to beat the man. And last I checked, the Packers did not win the NFC North. Who wants to win the NFC North in order to get to where they want to go? The Packers want to beat the Lions and win back the North. So I'm going to say the Lions. Am I right? Am I wrong? What am I?
I don't know. Plus, they came in last time on a Thursday night, wasn't it? And just stomped us. Yeah. And the whole crowd was blue. So, I'm with you on that. Although the 49ers, both the other two will be really entertaining, which is going to be fascinating. Every time I see the 49ers, this is the one place every time I see that game is where I check myself on Jordan Love, because I'm like, if you throw that pass again in overtime, like my leash for you is going to be this far, because like you get to throw that pass once in your career, and you've used it up really early.
And I believe, yeah. And you know what's funny, John? One of the first times I actually met you, I didn't know that you even knew I existed. But you came up to me with your kids in Philly, and remember all those nightmare games back? I think it was like after the 4th and 26 year, I was doing a live shot, and I'm like, John Anderson actually knows me. You came up to me and asked me a question about pregame warmups and stuff. So as much as you're right, there have been legendary Packers-Niners matchups, and I think this year Packers-Lions is going to be a knockdown dragout. But to me, this whole matchup this week, the Eagles thing with 4th and 26 and all the stuff that's happened between Green Bay and Philly, that still has nightmare connotations.
Yeah. The first time I met Freddie Mitchell, he and I had a long heart-to-heart. Like Fred, I think Fred might still be in the big house, but he and I'm just like, Fred, we're going to have to talk, or because it was introducing him for something. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not going to be able to do this if I don't clear the air. And he's like, what, clear the air? What? I haven't done anything. I said, oh, you've done some things. Okay. We'll need to clear the air. So anyway.
I like that.
Let's go. You go, buddy.
Oh, I was just going to say, John was talking about the big house. I've done actually fairly well with an ankle bracelet. So, I'm doing okay. I'm getting through things. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Do you still have to breathe to start your car into the thing, or are you good? Is it just the ankle bracelet?
Everything's good. Everything's good on my everything's. Yep.
Good ankle monitor, that whole thing. We should make fun of that.
It doesn't go off, and the AmFam security comes and gets me. I'm okay. I'm good.
There you go.
Lance, go cover the Brewers, man. Thanks for stopping by the Inside Wisconsin show and chatting a little Packers. And we know that you're going to land someplace. You're not going to be a stranger on our TV sets or our phones or whatever the case may be, man. Thanks for being here.
Hey, I appreciate you watching me all those years ago. Hashtag, I'm just old. Let's put it that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like he was in kindergarten or something when he was watching. It was terrible. And he didn't have a remote. He had to stand up and turn on the TV and wait for it to warm up, the whole thing.
Okay, one last story on the way out. The first day I walk into the building, I see Jim Irwin, who you guys know, the soundtrack of your life in Wisconsin. Right. Jim Irwin, Eddie Doucette, and Bob Uecker back in the day. And I literally bump into Jim Irwin down the hall. First day I walk in the building 28 years ago. And I'm like, Wayne's World, I'm not worthy. And he stuck out his hand, shook my hand, and said, kid, or Lance, I don't even remember what he said. I was just like in awe. And he said, they hired you for a reason. You're my peer, not my understudy. And that meant the world to me. So yeah, but now 28 years later, I go into schools and do high school talks in colleges. You got guys like Trevor, John, that come up to you and say, we only remember you on a certain outlet or a certain station. Yeah. Growing up with you. And now I feel like Jim Irwin, I'm older than Methuselah. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is that way. By the way, I had a similar experience with Jim it was at the Lombardi Golf Tournament, and they asked if I would help. And I'm like, hey, Jim Irwin's here. And he went to the University of Missouri as well. And he's like, this will be great. 2 Mizzou kids are going to do this. I'm like, yeah, that's totally how I feel. Just 2 Mizzou kids are going to do this. You're like, I'm not sure I still feel like that's how that went. Just 2 Mizzou kids when it went through. So, yeah, he was an unbelievable guy.
By the way, you had legendary hair. Did you have the Missouri mud flap back in the day?
No, I never had that, because I'm a Wisconsin guy. I went through. I never went that. It was like this, right? Okay. Like I used to be kind of
like the Leo Sayer hair. Did you go
with the afro? I could have been bumped up in the power forward range, but it's all right.
That's how we're going to end this. Is a conversation about hair. Really?
Well, we're vain TV guys, Trevor. I mean, you're beautiful, so you don't need any covering. No. But I can appreciate a good head of hair on a man.
Right there.
Television. Right there. Look at that.
Trev, I'll let you borrow my. I have a hair dryer that I don't use anymore, but you're welcome to it, bud.
Hey, I don't know if you guys can hear it, but I just mentioned ankle bracelet, and you can probably hear sirens in the background. We may have to end this pretty quick here because I may have to run away or something.
All right, yeah. Turn it off and just run for your life. That'll be great. Thanks, Lance.
Anytime. Thanks, boys.
We want you to do a whole lot more than just save money. We want your money to grow, just like your dreams. We want you to achieve financial well-being and the feelings that go along with that. Capital Credit Union, doing the right thing.
I think it's fair to say that hopes are high.
Yeah.
And as they should be.
Yes, there is tons of optimism as we went to the top of the show. There's optimism here, and I think it's rightful optimism. Right? So many times we have optimism because we're just blind, hope, stupid, follow our team, and of course they're going to be great. Like now they're 1-15. No, but this is the year anybody can do it. So there is, and you see the pieces, and it's going to be okay. And I do think the Lions are going to be a bit of a problem that they still have to contend with, but that's okay. The last Super Bowl they won from the wild card, so get in the tournament, and then you got a shot when it comes through. But I do think it's different, and maybe I've said this here or I've said it other places. With Jordan Love, right before the Packers, they believed they had the right guy, and now I think they trust that they have the right guy. And he's shown some things. And I feel that way. Like we went in last year with some promise, and this could be. And I think this year, like, no, this is a playoff team. Instead of if things go right and they, 9 wins might get in the playoffs, it couldn't. This year, you're like, okay, that's a playoff team. Now, how far can they push?
I have a buddy in Vegas right now, and I may or may not have put $200 on the Packers to win it all. Just saying.
Good for you. Did you have the Brewers at over 77.5? As they're in the 80s now. Are you kidding me? Let's go. Let's go.
I know. Yeah. Speaking of a team that had no major hopes after lots of people got hurt, leave it to you and I to end a Packers episode with some Brewers.
Just want to make sure that people know we're there. Our hearts are there. It's okay. It's okay.
Okay. Are you done traveling for a minute here? And do you have a John Wisconsin story from all your travels?
I don't get to travel again until I have to come to the Colts game. So I'm coming. I'll be there in a week or 2 days or 4, depending on when you're watching it. So I don't know that I have one for my travels. No, I was thinking a little bit about keeping it close to home, since the Packers are there. And it used to be when I lived over in Beamer Street. I know all people in Wisconsin don't know where that is, but it was really close. On nice days we could walk to the stadium. So I was thinking of the Kroll's that's there, Kroll's West, right? That's another thing, right? You got to Kroll's East and West. There's some people will not cross the river. I'm a West Sider. It's fine. And so that's, it's right there. The Packers have bought up every piece of land, but they're never getting that one.
No,
right? That's not short of, I don't know what it'll take to get rid of that, but they'll have that. So this is sort of a small John Wisconsin and a large apology to a woman I have no idea who she is.
Okay.
So we would go there after high school events. We would go to Kroll's. We'd go after a football game. We could go to Kroll's. Or, we used to go to the Godfather's Pizza that was there across Ridge Road as well before it got torn down. And now the Packers own that. I think it might actually be the Lodge Kohler. So we would always go there. Basketball games, we all went over there. And I felt terrible for the waitresses because we were boneheads, right? We were 17-year-old boneheads. I can still see my friend Steve Sharp. Remember they used to have the smallest little water glasses. I don't know if you remember. They were just tiny. And so Sharpie one time as he's stacking them up, and he's got like 8 of them. And this person comes by and they're like, could you please not stack the glasses? They're going to fall. And Sharpie's like, no. That's the trick. They don't fall down. And then right, they completely implode and so it's terrible. That's where once I parked there, and it's back when the drinking age was legal to be, it was okay, and to be underage was that. And like they moved my car because the brake wouldn't work, so I'd go out and my car would be gone. I woke up a lot I'd come out a lot and my car was in different places. Some people they'd move it into people's lawns. I had this old Toyota Celica. Anyway, so then there's these poor waitresses that had to put up with us all the time just for being knuckleheads. But the worst was we came up and the lady says, hi, can we get you anything? And we said, yeah, how about a younger, prettier waitress? Which at the time we thought was really funny, and it was terrible. So I would like to apologize. It made me think, here's Packer season, it's a new season. Kroll's is right there. It's as much of the fabric of that Lambeau community and Titletown as anything. And so I'm 50. So it's been 40 some odd years.
She might still work there.
Yeah, I've never forgotten that we said that. And we really thought it was funny at the time. And it really wasn't. It was really horribly, horribly mean. And we all laughed. I think she got that we were just joking. Like I don't remember. I don't think this woman was unattractive in any way, shape, or form. I don't know that she was 80. Like, no, we just said it because we were jackasses.
And if we're gonna have a stupid off about the dumb things that have come out of our mouth at the age of 17, get in line.
There you go.
Because
so yeah, we'd like a younger, prettier waitress. Terrible.
Why am I laughing at that?
I know, because we're horrible people. All right,
Yeah.
I get it. I tell people at my core, I'm awful. If you can think about it, you're like, that guy is not very nice. You're probably on the right track, right? Like I don't know. It's just it was bad. So we apologize to the staff of Kroll's West. And whomever that may be, and
if you want to run into John Anderson,
I've been in that place 100 times since. I'm home, a lot of time, and I've never said it to anybody else again. So there you go. My life. Never once again. With my kids at 50, if I said, hey, when they come, we're going to say this.
Good on
you.
No,
we were good.
All right. Well, if you wanted to see John Anderson, I bet you he's at Kroll's when he comes home for the Colts game.
Well, we'll see, and I promise I'll be nice.
Yeah, good. As you were, Wisconsin. See you next time. Remember to subscribe on YouTube, leave a review, smash the like button. Just get with us.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Legit Pizza, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
Shut up and sit down.